Hey folks, thanks for tuning in today for your dose of dark, disturbing and horrible news. The story today is about something that's been going on for a long time, since November last year, and we have covered it before, but we've now got somewhat of a resolution on it. It's about Wilfred Wong, a regular on the YouTube Truther podcast scene. He's been found guilty now of conspiracy to kidnap a child at knife point, him and a few other co-defendants of his. Now, if you watched the video that James English put on his channel the other day about Shaun Attwood, you may have heard Wilfred Wong get a mention as a guest on the Attwood podcast. That's actually relevant because it was reported in the press that a couple of YouTube videos were played in court of Mr. Wong stating that the courts and social services had been infiltrated by Satanists. Now, I don't know for sure if any of the videos played in court were Shaun Attwood videos or not, because Mr. Wong did appear on other channels too. The one I remember most is one called Concrete, I think the name of the channel is. I'm sure people will correct me if I'm wrong, but I do recall Mr. Wong on that podcast stating that he was once staking out a meeting of Satanists and they were coming in and out of the building dressed like Dracula, and only at the end of his anecdote did he mention the fact that this was actually taking place on Halloween. So it rendered the whole story about him staking out a meeting of Satanists a little bit moot, because he'd actually been staking out a Halloween party by the sounds of things. But that's just one thing I remember from a certain podcast that Mr. Wong was on. But if you're not aware anyway, Mr. Wong is a YouTube famous truther, somebody who bills themselves as a protector of children and an exposer of satanic child abuse. He's got many supporters online and he's got many detractors online as well. And he has now been found guilty, as I say, along with several other middle-aged adults of conspiracy to kidnap a child. Don't let the word conspiracy fool you into thinking they didn't actually do anything though, because they actually carried out half of their plan. Reporting restrictions have now been lifted and we've got a little bit more detail about things. Mr. Wong himself has been described in the press as the leader of the gang and that ever so tabloidy term, a knifeman. He pled not guilty, but he was found guilty by a jury, as were a few of his co-defendants. Most of the other ones pled guilty. One of them was found dead in prison of an apparent suicide, and another one was acquitted. I'll put the links down below to the couple of articles that are out about it. The BBC article is interesting. They write that the group of would-be kidnappers, that is Wong and his co-defendants, the BBC writes that the group believed the child was at risk of satanic ritual abuse and had devised a plan to kidnap it. They also write that Wilfred Wong is an expert in satanic abuse. Now, it was actually a fairly complex and well thought out plan, in part, and it gives quite a disturbing insight into the planning stage of this. They apparently spoke in code. They used different modes of transport with fake number plates, and some of them tailed the others at a distance so that they weren't seen together. They also used bridges as lookout points to check for police activity, and they even had an idea to use a modified horse box to smuggle the child out of the country in a secret compartment. But they scrapped that idea and decided instead to just kidnap the child at knife point in public in front of several witnesses in the afternoon. So they obviously got caught and arrested, because that's the kind of thing that you would be arrested for. And they're now awaiting sentence after being found guilty. But some elements of this plan, such as the talk of a modified child smuggling horse box, for example, that sends shivers down the spine. And I can't help but wonder if that is a thing that is known about in child kidnap circles. Who knows, but it is absolutely disturbing to think of a modified horse box designed for smuggling children. You've also got the fact that they were able to source false number plates without resulting in their cars being pulled over prior to the actual incident, which certainly adds an air of professionalism to the whole thing. And when you actually read what happened, the incident itself, it sounds like an absolutely terrifying situation that has almost certainly scarred the victims for life. The victims being the child and the child's foster mother, neither of whom can be named, by the way, so do not go there. Several people have already named them on social media and have subsequently been arrested and charged with contempt of court for doing so. Definitely don't do that. Now, according to the press, during the incident the child was screaming. The foster mother was actually threatened with the knife, and from the reporting where Wilfred Wong has been described as the knifeman, it was actually him that wielded the knife, and he actually held the knife to the foster mother's face to make her give up the child. He then slashed one of her tyres and left in a vehicle with the child. Now, the foster mother and the child must have both been absolutely terrified, there's no doubt about it. And the child was described in court as terrified and sobbing, and was supposedly wrenched from the foster mother's arms after a bit of a struggle before the knife was held to her face. So the child was put into a vehicle and it was driven off with the intention to swap cars at a petrol station and then from there take the child overseas via a ferry. They got as far as actually swapping vehicles and heading off in the second vehicle, but the police intercepted that vehicle, and this is actual footage of that vehicle being stopped by the police. In that vehicle, I believe Wilfred Wong is, and he is in possession of the knife in that vehicle, along with the child. So an extremely weird situation altogether, and Mr. Wong's miniature celebrity status on YouTube, and certainly his hero status in certain truther circles, certainly doesn't make this any less weird. His defence, by the way, was that he was only in the area for a walking holiday and had arranged to get a lift back by two of the co-defendants, and that he couldn't possibly have been involved because he's too old and slow to take part in a child kidnap. Not that he wouldn't do it, just that he'd have been a liability if he did. That is never the best defence. It also didn't help his case that he was seen committing the crime by several witnesses and then found to be in possession of the knife when the police pulled over the vehicle. As I say, he's been found guilty by a jury and he awaits sentencing now in September, so I'll be sure to update you on that, but I suspect the judge isn't going to be considering the motive for the crime like the BBC did. The judge is more likely just going to be considering their sentencing guidelines for conspiracy to kidnap a child at knife point, and Wilfred Wong and his co-defendants, but especially Wilfred Wong, due to the fact that he was the one that was armed, and he's not going to get any credit for pleading guilty because he pled not guilty. I don't think it's looking good for him at all. He could be going away for a very long time and getting a very big shock if his lawyer hasn't managed his expectations properly. Anyway folks, the links to the articles, as I say, are down below in the description, so you can make of the story what you will. Feel free to comment below. The trial is now over, so the comment section can be switched on. And I will also just take this opportunity to shamelessly plug the new episode of the Daddygate podcast, which has been recorded and it should be out by tomorrow evening at the time of recording this video. So if listening to myself and Wheezy chatting about all things Daddygate on a podcast sounds like your cup of tea, then the link down below is going to be there to the Daddygate podcast channel, and the new episode will be out soon for that. But otherwise, make sure to let me know what you think of this story down in the comments below, and I will leave that one there. Until the next one. Cheers folks.